morning. Thanks for everyone for being here. Actually, it's a good afternoon now. We kind of slept in for once. We've been on the road a lot lately. I did want to say thank you first to our elected officials who are present today. It means a lot. As Alex mentioned, I am a Michigan native. I grew up right here in Oakland County, and I live just a couple miles away in Royal Oak. I'm also a member of the Royal Oak Acorn Post of VFW, so I appreciate you all for hosting us here. Now, a little bit about myself. As I mentioned, I grew up here in Michigan, but I'm also a West Point graduate. I served as an Army officer in the infantry and deployed to Afghanistan in 2007. In Afghanistan, I was an operations officer with the Special Operations Task Force. So every single day, I could see the setbacks, but sadly the progress that the insurgency was gaining. Now, one of my most vivid memories of my time in Afghanistan was going to a refugee camp where different families and tribes were essentially forced to live together in an area where they couldn't cultivate crops, where famine was rampant, where mothers and fathers didn't know where they would find food to feed their children's next meal. In this area, and why we were there, is because these types of conditions essentially create a breeding ground, a fertile breeding ground for groups like Al-Qaeda and the Taliban to recruit new members who ultimately would seek to do the U.S. harm. So that's why, from a climate change standpoint, I'm so interested in this issue and want to see us as a nation make progress in capitalizing clean technology so we can stop sending our money overseas for oil and start using it right here in the United States, particularly here in Michigan, to develop clean technologies, put people back to work, bring jobs back to the state of Michigan. Now, a more immediate concern, obviously, is the national security threat that what's happening is today, we're sending over $1 billion a day overseas for foreign oil. So what that's doing is this money is going to countries like Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, of course Iran also profits greatly from oil. So this money is being directly funneled into groups like Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. Now, when those of us here sign up to join the military, we know we're going to be called upon to, we may be called upon to fight against unforeseen circumstances, events that come up, crises that we can't predict. Climate change is something we can predict. We can help put a stop to it now, but it's going to take every single one of us. And that's why we're here traveling the country, we're here in Michigan today, to bring attention to these issues. Not just of what it's doing to our environment, or how it can help the economy, but also the national security implications. So I would urge you all to please take an interest, educate yourself on the issues, and right now I think the most important thing we can do is support Senators Levin and Stabenow because they're going to face a lot of pressure as this bill moves to the United States Senate. So I really would ask you all to please support the Clean Energy Jobs and American Power Act. So with that, I will leave forward. David? Thank you.
Hi, thanks for coming today. My name is Matt Ross, and I'm a native of the Grand Rapids area. I went to school at the University of Michigan and studied chemical engineering. Yes, go Blue. How about that game the other day? 63-6. How about that? We didn't do that for Ohio State. So, after I was commissioned through ROTC, I went over to Germany and joined up with a combat engineer battalion. From there, we deployed to Iraq, and I was there for the invasion, and then stayed for most of 2003. We were told 5 days of hard fighting, we'll have you home in 35, and then 10 months later, we finally got to go. So I really lived the business end of our national addiction to oil, and I led convoys all through the Sunni Triangle. For the past 4 years, I've been managing construction projects in an oil refinery. So I've seen it from that side as well. One might say I learned about oil in school, I fought for oil in the desert, and then I've most recently been working for oil. Essentially my entire adult life has revolved around it. So my military experiences and experiences in the oil industry have really shown me the huge costs associated with burning fossil fuels. Today our soldiers, our troops in Iraq, they fight for oil, and we spend $1 billion each day to import it into the country. our fossil fuels that we burn, they really pollute the environment, and they're really largely responsible for the global climate change. So we need less carbon in the atmosphere, we need more renewable energy. We really need to give America control of the energy situation, control over our own destiny, and clean energy jobs will really help us get there. So I'd echo what some of my colleagues have said. The Clean Energy Jobs and American Power Act is really a big step in the right direction and will greatly help in that endeavor.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Glenn Kunkel from Akron, Ohio. I'm not a Buckeyes fan. I'm a 10-year veteran of the United States Marine Corps, serving all 10 years in the infantry. My first tour in Iraq was in 2005, in the Anbar province. My second tour was in 2007, back to the Anbar province again as an advisor to the Iraqi Army. Throughout my 10 years in the Marine Corps, I've studied asymmetrical warfare, insurgencies, insurrections, revolutions, and all the wonderful things that takes Marines to the places that we get to go. That being said, I know exactly what kind of enemy that we're facing right now in our two wars here in Iraq and again in Afghanistan and numerous places around the globe that we can't find on the map. We all know, whether we've seen it on the evening news and CNN or YouTube, whatever, what kind of enemy we're facing. He is vicious, and he will kill indiscriminately man, women, and child. We all know that. The roots of these problems come from civil unrest, socioeconomic disruption, famine, drought, natural disasters. These are things that we can avoid through passing this bill. These things will pass with a lot easier transition should we take a lot better care of our environment. These are enemies that we can avoid. And more so than avoid, these are enemies that we can prevent. Because future generations of Marines and sailors and soldiers and airmen will not have to go into harm's way for these people and these enemies that we can avoid creating today by the passage of this bill. Please ask me for your support in the passage of the Clean Energy Act. I'm going to turn it over to Robin Eckstein now. Thank you.